Welcome to Beyond Words Presents. I'm Whitney Diffender for your host. We're here back after our holiday break, and we are here with Derek Rydall, the world's #1 expert in the law of emergence. And as you can see on his lower third, he's even calling himself an emergineer. Derek, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Whitney. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. I apologize for the very bare and blank walls, but it's a new office. Haven't had a chance to decorate yet. It hasn't fully emerged yet.
Great. Well, and I also want to mention that just yesterday, your brand new book, Emergence, 7 Steps to a Radical, 7 Steps for Radical Life Change, as we have it right here, just came out,
Yes.
which we're very excited about. And also today, you're going to be taking us through 3 steps to discover and explore and connect with our deepest, greatest life. And I'm so excited about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just excited, essentially, apparently.
You're just an excited person, aren't you?
I am. And I want everyone watching to know that they can participate in this conversation as well, because I'm sure Derek's going to be bringing up all sorts of questions for you. And you can use the Google Hangouts app to ask questions, and we will ask him directly on air right after you send them to us.
Yes.
So, and also be sure to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. So, Derek, we're going to go through a bunch of amazing things, but the first question that I know a lot of people have is, what is the law of emergence? We've heard of the law of attraction, but what is this?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about the law of emergence by means of a story of sort of my emergence. And, like so many people, I was struggling to fix, change, heal, improve my life for many, many years. And after a decade of self-improvement therapy and modalities and whatever, the only thing I'd really improved was my ability to describe why my life was so messed up. I'd gotten very, very articulate at describing why things weren't working, but they were still not working. In fact, things were getting worse. So much so that all of my efforts to improve and achieve and attract and manifest drove me to become addicted to alcohol and drugs. It was creating so much angst and frustration and a lack of results, and then almost killed me from an overdose. And I remember lying in the hospital with the IV snaking out of my arm, and you're in a really low place when the doctor says you're lucky to be alive, and you take that as bad news. And I just remember lying there going, how did all this self-improvement get me here? Yeah. And the universe, it taps you on the shoulder, whispers in your ear, and then it takes a 2x4 to your head, and that was certainly a 2x4 experience. And but my brother said that I'd always had such a thick head, such a thick skull, and so that wasn't quite enough to crack me open and really shift this pattern I'd been in. And I sort of dug in again and started to actually have success. I became a successful actor, up-and-coming actor. And I thought, okay, now I'm on the track. I really know what I'm doing now. I've got this whole, achievement manifestation thing. I really know what I'm doing. I'm special. And then while doing a film, everything began to fall apart again. And I was finally had what I thought I wanted, but I was really unhappy and felt really disconnected. And one day I went out and trying to just get lost from it all after the film was falling apart, the director was fired, I'd had some bad on-set romance, and I went diving in a coral reef, and literally I prayed to just get lost from everything above. And you got to be careful what you pray for, because very soon I was lost, very lost, after following these brightly colored fish, and I found myself trapped in this pocket of coral. And I won't go through the whole story, but it was like an underground booby-trapped tomb in Indiana Jones, was surrounded by fire coral that any touch would have been like 1,000 jellyfish stings. I was literally inches from giant spiked coral that was rows of spiked coral that was inches from my throat and my face and my chest and my stomach, that would have skewered me if I tried to lift my head out of water, if I tried to swim down to find out how to get out. I was trapped, and I had to swim just using my fingers just to stay afloat underneath the water at that level so I wouldn't fall on top of the spikes. And I had to breathe in short staccato breaths, so that I wouldn't take a deep breath and get skewered. And this was a long ordeal that lasted at least an hour, where I went through all the scenarios of how I might get rescued, and eventually realized nobody was coming to save me. And my ego got to the end of the tape. And it was such a sense of finality. I no longer was hoping I wouldn't drown. I knew I was going to. It's hard to understand if you haven't experienced that, but there was nothing left but to surrender. And it wasn't, God, if you get me out of this, I'll go to church on Sunday kind of surrender. I mean, I'd already tried to bargain with the universe, and the universe wasn't having it. But it was a complete surrender. And in that moment of just letting go, something cracked open inside of me. And I had this glimpse of something that I didn't have words for then. It wasn't an intellectual experience. It was a direct encounter. I could see that this self that I've been working so hard to fix and change and improve was a fictional concept. It was the conditioned response of society and parents and all in schooling, and it didn't really exist. And that there was, in fact, a self that had never been damaged by any experience, so it didn't need to be fixed. And it was already complete and fulfilled, so it couldn't be improved upon. Now, again, I didn't have the language. It was just a moment of awareness. And in that split second, and I still don't know exactly what happened, but this wave came along, or the water just lifted, and I was lifted out, and before I knew it, I was standing outside of this pocket I'd been trapped in, and was standing on this place outside of the coral reef where I could see where I'd been stuck, and the exit was inches from me the whole time. And this maze of coral became like a metaphor for my life. I could see that I'd been swimming through this maze my whole life, following all these brightly colored objects, trying to just find a sense of connection and a sense of purpose or meaning or something. And I was trapped, I was gasping for air, and I was literally drowning, and that was my life. And I remember looking around everything after the shift was so radical that the guy that swam in was not the guy that swam out. And everything had this shimmering energy to it, behind everyone and everything. And I knew something very radical had happened, hence the title, Radical Life Change, 7 Steps for Radical Life Change. And it was like the ego was just ripped from its moorings. I like to say Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. And I ended up pulling myself out of society. I quit acting, I quit so many things, and I was going to become a monk, actually. But I ended up cloistering myself in my apartment, and the monk thing didn't work out too well. I tried it, and a few days of retreating in silence and fasting rather, and I freaked out so much that I broke into the monk's kitchen in the middle of the night and stole food out of the refrigerator. So that was how bad my monk experience went. But I ended up cloistering myself in my apartment and going on this inner journey for several years. And what I discovered was that, as I said, that there was already this self that was perfect and was complete and was fulfilled and had never been damaged by experience. And I could see that just as the oak tree, I use this example, obviously it's right on the cover of the book, as the oak tree is already in the acorn, and the acorn doesn't have to go out and attract an oak or achieve an oak or become worthy of an oak or improve itself into an oak, that it's already in the acorn. There's a vibrational signature of the oak is there in the field of the acorn, and when the conditions are right in the soil, the oak naturally emerges. So when the conditions in the soil match the pattern in the seed, oak emerges, or apple tree or pine tree or whatever the seed is. And I saw that the same thing was true with us, that there is a perfect pattern of infinite potential, a unique pattern planted in the soil of our soul, just waiting for the right conditions for it to naturally emerge. And I saw that, therefore, most of my efforts to achieve and attract and manifest were creating most of the resistance to the natural emergence of my innate wholeness, of that innate pattern. Because the fundamental premise that I was operating, and so many people are operating under, is that something was missing, something was lacking, something was wrong, something is broken. And you don't get so much what you want in life or even what you pray for, you get where you are in consciousness, the law of mind in operation. So I was coming from a premise of I'm lacking, and so no matter how much I struggled to achieve, I kept manifesting more of I don't have, more of I'm not enough, more of something's missing. In fact, even when I did manifest, as I like to say, you manifest a bigger paycheck, but you're just broke at a higher income bracket. or you manifest a bigger house and you're just even less at home. You manifest, like me, I got the job I thought was the job of my dreams, and I was miserable and unhappy. And so, because all you really do, you're just manifesting a more expanded version of your limited self-concept. And so one of the challenges with the law of attraction, in distinction to the law of emergence, is, or any success strategy, is that whenever we're trying to achieve or do anything from the standpoint that we don't already have it, that it's not already happening, we automatically have taken ourselves off track. We're already off track and out of alignment with who we really are. And that's why, you know, one of the many master teachers, Jesus, said, when you pray, pray believing that you already have, that you may receive. And that wasn't a metaphysical trick to attract it. It was a mystical truth that you do already have it. And that is one of the biggest, what I call the great reversal, which is we've just been conditioned so much to believe that we have shown up in this world as empty shells, and we have to try to fill ourselves full. And you end up with fulfillment, but not actually fulfillment. And that the truth is that we came here with everything we could ever need to be all that we were created to be. And the world can't add any to us, and the world also can't take anything away. And so from the law of emergence standpoint, which again, in definition, is that the whole pattern of your destiny is already planted in your soul. It's already planted within you. And when the conditions match that pattern, it naturally emerges. And the good news is that, even better news, is that whereas a plant is indigenous, you know, the acorn, meaning its ability to emerge and to thrive is determined on its external conditions, we are endogenous, which means that we carry our weather with us, the soil of our soul, the light of our being. No matter how many clouds are blocking the sun, we can always turn on the light of our own being. We are self-effulgent beings. So we can activate the light, we can cultivate the soil, we can generate the conditions, whatever is needed that matches the seed pattern of our soul purpose blueprint, of our destiny, whatever metaphor you want to use. And when that match happens, it emerges. It's law. It's principle. It's not personal. So it doesn't matter where you've come from, what side of the tracks you were born on, where you're currently planted, or what's going on in your outer conditions. When the conditions, which we'll talk more about, match the pattern within you, it emerges. You know, it's like when you plant a seed in the soil, and it doesn't matter how long it's been that you've been off track either. You know, if you plant a seed in the soil that's, you know, got stuck in your pocket for years, and you put it in there and you create the right conditions, the soil can't go, I'd love to grow you, but I'm afraid you missed your window of opportunity. You know, it's like, I'd love to grow you, but, you know, you come from a long line of seeds that never really amounted to much. And no, the minute you cultivate the soil, the law of emergence in the soil automatically begins to operate on that seed and bring it into fruition. And another distinction I want to just share, it's because we're shifting some paradigms here, is that things like the law of attraction or cause and effect are what are called relative concepts. They are linguistic conveniences, the same way that we talk about, you know, the sun rises and sets. But we actually know now that the sun doesn't actually rise and set. And I hope I'm not blowing anybody's mind by telling you that. The sun doesn't rise and set. The planet is revolving, and it creates an optical illusion of rising and setting. And it's also just more romantic to say, you know, hey, darling, let's go watch the sun set, rather than, hey, let's go watch the planet revolve. It's not very romantic, unless maybe you're an astrologer or something, you know, or an astronomer. But so similarly, we now know from quantum physics that life is not cause and effect. It's really not causal in that way, that life is emergent, that in the field, the quantum field, there are infinite ideas, infinite potential, and through observation and congruence, that which is already inherent in the field begins to emerge. You know, the idea for computers or jet planes was in the field at the time of Buddha. But it required somebody to tap into it, to tune into that frequency. One of the other analogies I like to use is that people can understand is that, because the key thing is that it's already here, right? As I said before, the oak is already in the acorn, and the whole manifest pattern of the oak is vibrationally in the field of the acorn. And so the whole manifest pattern of your destiny is in the field of you. And we'll talk a little bit later how it's giving clues all over the place about who you really are, what you're really alive, and what your destiny is. But I want you to get these fundamental things that you've brought it all with you, and it's fundamentally energetic or spiritual, whichever works for you. But one analogy I love to use is right now you are surrounded by and enveloped in a field of broadcasts. And your favorite music is playing in there somewhere. Your favorite music that would make you just want to dance, and maybe you're feeling sad right now, but if you heard that music, you would suddenly be just dancing and grooving, or information that would inspire you. Hopefully this that you're watching right now is one of those broadcasts. But it's actually broadcasting right where you are, but it's not manifest in the material experience until you tune the dial of your receiver to the station where that music is playing. And once you tune to that station, you didn't make the music happen, you made the music that was already happening welcome. It became manifest in the form of audio. But it was already broadcasting, it was already manifest in frequency. But only when the frequency of your dial matches the frequency of the station where that music is playing does the music become manifest. And I call that your manifest station. And so, to play on the words there a little bit. So that music is already there, and it wasn't in the future. It wasn't in the distance. It was playing here and is playing now. But the only distance is one of frequency. You're not tuned into the station where that music is, so that music isn't manifest. And so the same thing is true with the frequency of your destiny, with the frequency of wealth and abundance and joy and peace, your right companionship. That whole symphony of your successful life, that whole beat of abundance, that whole orchestra of your life is already playing, it's already broadcasting right where you are. But most of your mental, emotional, conversational, physical trends or habits are tuning you out of frequency, out of alignment with who and what you really are. Most of us have developed a life strategy that is based on coping, based on survival, based on protection, based on not getting hurt. And that's a frequency that isn't a match for who you are. It's like, you're tuned into station KLACK, KLAC, and your life is playing on KRIH, K-Rich, or K-Joy, Killjoy, whatever works for you. And so when you're trying to, let's just say, attract something, the frequency of that is often, I don't have it, let me get it. Or you're trying to achieve something, I don't have it, let me get it. Well, the frequency of that is tuning down the dial towards KLAC. It's not congruent with who you really are and what's broadcasting. And so you'll be tuned into a station where they're playing the blues, and the kind of information is maybe gossip and criticism and negativity and all that. So that's the key. And again, just to use a statement that Jesus said, and by the way, this isn't religious at all. I'm not a religious person per se, but Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, these guys really kind of had it going on. They knew what the principles of the universe were. And there was a moment where they were asking him, when is heaven going to come, and what will it look like? And he said, heaven will not come by observation. It won't be low here, low there. It won't be, no, it's already at hand. But having eyes, you can't see it, and having ears, you can't hear it. In other words, he was saying you're judging with the physical senses, and he was trying to teach them to develop their soul sense, in today's parlance, energetic sense. But he was saying, basically, as Buddha did as well, it's already in you, it's already happening, but you're not aligned with it because you're looking out there and you're struggling and striving to try to get it, but you've already got it. And that was the big breakthrough that I got. And that's the big shift that I want you to get, is that you already have everything that you need. You brought it all with you. And so from the emergence model, whatever's missing is what you're not giving. And if you're waiting for something, whatever you're waiting for, you're actually waiting with, and you're weighing it down. And so Emergence is the ultimate weight loss program, WAIT, because because it's all in you. You know, you walk into a relationship, a job, a room, the only thing you can meet is what you brought. Now that's a bitter pill for some people at first, but it's ultimately liberating when you realize this, that all of life is just simply a reflection of what you're bringing, of how you're showing up. And no person, no situation, no condition can ever hinder, block, or delay or deny the fulfillment of your destiny and of your potential, ever. The only causative factor in you bringing forth your full potential is your willingness to tap into it, to tune into it, to become aligned with it, to become a match to it, and to let it begin to emerge in your life. And I don't know if you have any questions about that, Whitney, but we can certainly step into some other areas about how you do that, unless this has brought up some key questions for you.
Well, for me, I just wanted to share with you, Derek, my experience as you just went through all of that. When you're sharing that, like, everything that I need to fulfill on everything that I've ever wanted in my life is in me.
Yes.
The holidays just happened, and we're looking at, new year, new you, recreating yourselves. And
Yeah.
of course, I've made up all of these things in my head about things that I need to do or ways that I need to be, or more money or houses or whatever that is. And it's felt very draining, like very, very draining. And just as you were talking, I felt a fullness in myself and just a confidence and a knowing that it was all, it'll all happen. It'll all be perfect because I'm me.
Yes. And I would even make a slight little semantical adjustment.
Please.
It won't all be perfect. It already is.
Yeah.
It's already happening. And I want to also make the acorn isn't an inadequate oak tree. We often think we're inadequate because we're not somewhere else, we're not enough because we're not somewhere else, or don't have more of something. The acorn is not an inadequate oak tree, it's a perfect acorn. And yet it has more potential that is seeking to emerge. And so the same is true for us. We're not an inadequate version of ourselves. We're a perfect version of right where we are. And it's fundamental to the emergence model and for it working that our starting point is, I already have it. I already am it. It's already here. Again, to quote the Bible, to he who has, more shall be given. To he who has not, even what he has will be taken away. That's a principle. When you have a consciousness of having, that's why gratitude is so powerful, because gratitude is the evidence that the gift has already been given. And if you live in an attitude of gratitude, the universe will keep giving you reasons to be grateful, according to your unique pattern. So gratitude is one of the core conditions to cultivate for your emergence, because it's an alignment with what's true about you, which is that the gift has already been given. The whole of life has already been given to you. One of the things that a misunderstanding, we often talk about, we're on our way back to God or back to home, or we're on our way to abundance, or we're on our way to greater wholeness. And that's actually not true. You're not actually on your way to anything any more than the sunbeam is on its way back to the sun. The sunbeam is an emanation of the sun. And you are an emanation of the light. You are an emanation of God or love or beauty or abundance. You're not on your way to abundance. You are literally coming from abundance. You are literally coming from wholeness. You are coming from love, from light. Just think of the shift there. You're not on your way to anything. You are the thing itself, uniquely expressing itself. And this is a core thing. That's why I like to, we talk about affirmations, and I change it to affirmations, because it's already here. Remember, pray believing that you already have. So you're not praying for, you are praying from. Prayer is not a tool to get anything. It is the mechanism by which you let what is already in you out. As the poet Robert Browning said, in order to release the imprisoned splendor. It's already there. Or as Michelangelo, when he sculpted the great masterpieces, he said the divine had already done the work. His job was to see the masterpiece already imprisoned or hidden in that block of stone and chip away everything until it released the angel from the stone. And I remember when I first caught this, I saw the same thing was true. We're meant to be artists of our life. and releasing everything that isn't congruent with who we are, but catching a vision of what is the masterpiece already hidden within us so that we can release it from this mortal stone. And so that brings us to the first and most important stage in emergineering, which is really the process of engineering your emergence. Because this is a framework. It's a 7-stage framework that allows you to, and it can be applied to your whole life, to your overall purpose, to your purpose this year, but also to every one of your life structures, wealth, work, health, relationships, because inherent in every area is that perfect seed pattern. And that's trying to emerge and giving clues of what's trying to emerge. So the first step, though, in emergence is seeing the completed vision, is knowing what is trying to emerge. What is that idea? What is that vision? What is that purpose? What is trying to emerge in me? And that's why in Proverbs it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. It doesn't say, where there is no vision, the people have a bad day, right? It says they perish. That's how important vision is. And so, as the Gospel of Thomas says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. So there is a great and mighty vision and purpose in you, but you need to begin to get in touch with what is that. Or I like the old saying, if you don't know where you're going, every route will take you there. And basically you'll be lost. So the first stage is what is trying to emerge. What is the seed that is planted in you? Because like the gardener, you don't know what conditions to cultivate in the soil if you don't know what the seed is. And there's several ways we can do that. I'll even walk you through a little exercise. Would that be okay, Whitney?
That would be great. I'm so excited about this. I can't even tell you, because all through our lives, and I know I'm not the only one, but everybody's always telling us, find what your passion is and go after it. And I'm like, great. I don't know what my passion is.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
it has me stall. And even when I looked through the 7 steps that you had, that first step really intimidated me, because I'm like, I don't know what that end vision is. I would like to, make good money, live in a nice house, have a great relationship, have a good family, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. So
it can be. It can be part of it. And by the way, just for all of you that are watching, I'm going to give you I created a special free in-depth video training with worksheets and all that to support you in really applying this work practically in your life. And if you just go to www.emergencetraining.com, you can actually get that training, and that's just emergencetraining.com, EMERGENCE training.com. So it's a very intimidating thing. A lot of people are like, that's great, but I don't know what my vision is. And there's a reason why. Is that the vision is speaking to you, the purpose is speaking to you, who you are is speaking to you, but it's bumping up against a lot of layers of conditioning, what are called values conflicts or shadow beliefs. And we won't be able to go into all of that today, but I do go into that in the book and in this, in part in this free training that will give you some things to work on today. So if you get the book today, and for a few I'm talking about today, and also with the free training, so you can really get going right away.
Yeah, and before we jump into it too much, Derek, I just want to mention to people that they can get the book today. And this time we're doing a really awesome thing I'm excited about, is that we're going to have signed copies. It's $15, which is the cover price, but it is a signed copy by you, the #1 expert in the law of emergence, which is so fantastic. So if you can get a copy, and you can go to www.beyondword.com/Rydall, RYDALL, and grab that signed copy. So just to let people know before you get them so anxious to purchase the book, they just go crazy.
Awesome. Yeah, and so so the vision, it gives off clues, because remember, all of life, here a little bit down the rabbit hole, you're not actually in the world is in you. Just like in a dream, everything in the dream is a part of you. Well, the same is true with your life experience. And so everything in your life is giving you feedback and giving you a clue of who you are and what's really true about you, and actually what you're here to be and do and create and contribute. And so one of the first most basic way to begin to discover what is that seed within me, what is that purpose or that plan, is something very simplistic, but believe it or not, it's a very powerful truth, and that's your deepest desires. And here's why. The word desire actually comes from a root that means of the sire, or from the father, or the creative principle. And it also means from the heavens. So the desire that you sincerely have from an emergence perspective, it's not a sign of something outside of you that you need to go get. It's actually a sign of what's in you trying to get out. That burning desire is you're pregnant with something. It's like the baby kicking in a pregnant woman. And, unfortunately, we don't understand that. So when we feel that kick of desire, we start to go out and make it happen, instead of understanding that it's a sign that it's already happened. If you can imagine a pregnant woman suddenly feels the baby kicking, and she's going, oh my God, I want a baby so bad, and she starts to go out and tries to make a baby happen. She would seem a little crazy. And eventually those nice men in white jackets with really good upper body strength would come and take her away. And she would end up losing her child too, sad as that sounds, but that's what happens to us. We aren't able to give birth to that vision of our life because we feel the desire kick, we don't realize it means we've got it, and we start going out to try to get it. And again, remember, that tunes us out of frequency, out of alignment with it, and it can't manifest. So, or if we force ourselves into manifesting it somehow, it's like I said, you manifest a bigger paycheck, you're broke at a higher income bracket, or it's like holding a beach ball underwater. You know that the moment you relax, it's going to pop up and hit you in the face. So desire is the first thing. And there's a little exercise there's two I want to take you through, but the first one is just ask yourself, if I could truly create the life of my dreams, where I could be and do and have and contribute and do it with the people I want and where I want and how I want, in the way that truly, truly sings my soul, that just really juices me, what would that look like? Who would I be? Show up. I contribute. Just ask yourself that sincerely, and I invite you to take pen and paper or fingers to keys if you are on a computer. I mean, obviously you're on a computer watching this, but if you can do it on the side. And write that down. And feel into that as you're doing that. I'll go through this kind of quickly, but as you're feeling into that, feel in your body on a scale from 0 to 100. 0 being, somebody please shoot me now, so not very good, and 100 being, oh my God, I can barely stay in my body, I'm so excited. Where does it feel as you describe that vision? Where does that feel? So maybe you've written down, I want a beautiful home and a beautiful family and all of that. And maybe you say it's about a 50 or a 60. Rarely do people just out of the gate, are they 80, 90, 100? If you are, great. But let's say it's the 50 or 60. Maybe it's even less. Maybe you're like, I can't even think of anything. Start with what you do know.
Can I share real quick what
go
comes up
ahead.
for me? The vision that I have is working collaboratively with a large group of people toward a cause that is making a difference for others.
Beautiful.
Having that be the work of my life.
Yes.
Not having that on one side and then a different job and then something else. It's just like having that be it.
Okay, so now, and what does that feel on a scale from 0 to 100, if you can imagine doing that?
I'd say probably about a 60.
Great. So I can work with you a little bit and people will be able to do it by proxy through you.
Yeah.
So what would make that vision a 70? Just feel into your body, feel into that vision. What would make it a 70?
Being able to do it with my husband.
Okay, great. Beautiful. So just feel that. Does that feel like it's just bumped up a little bit?
A lot, actually.
Okay,
I got a little teary right there.
So just be with that. Be with the emotion. Be with that. I know it's a little intimate, but that's okay. So just be with the feelings. Feel your heart opening. Feel. I can also sense when I work with people, there's a lot of intuitive stuff that happens and a lot of healing. But there's also some old stuff here. We won't get into all of it with you. I'm not going to totally expose you right now on air, but I can feel some patterns, some young patterns and stuff around really having what you really want and having it with your loved ones. And so just ask now, what would make it about an 80? What would make it an 80? Could you be even more specific of the type of way you'd want to help and serve and collaborate and contribute? Or is there anything else that would make it just feels like it jumps up to like an 80?
I was educating children, making a difference for children, giving them a new opportunity in life, wherever they are, whatever. I'm envisioning like in Africa, where they're dealing with so much.
Beautiful. By the way, I'm also a big supporter of that. I support building schools in Africa and also helping youth here in the U.S., including incarcerated youth. And a percentage of all the proceeds from this book are going to go to support that. So just for people to know that as well. And so great. So feel into that. I want everybody to follow along and do it for your own vision. Now, what would make that even better? What else would you add into this vision? And remember, it might be like you added in your husband. And you added in children, and maybe even in Africa. So there's travel, and there's a specific kind of thing. And for some people now, you might feel kind of stuck. You might have a vision that you think you really want, like traveling the world and doing these amazing things. But it's bringing up some other feelings too that aren't so good. And usually that's an indication that there's a values conflict in there, meaning that you believe that if you really did this, if you really had this, you would have to sacrifice something else you value. Like you may have to sacrifice time with loved ones or family. And so like in Whitney's case, she added in the husband, but if she hadn't thought about that, there would have been something missing until she did. And so you get to do that. You get to define this. Is that maybe you're like, oh yeah, if I could do it with like a soulmate, now suddenly it just jumps up the scale. But then you also might go, there's still some resistance there. And that might be something like, well, I'm afraid I would lose my free time. I wouldn't have any freedom. If I start getting successful, everybody's going to want something from me and I won't have any freedom. Great. That's a great insight. Could be a shadow, or it could be just a values click. Guess what? You get to design into your vision of the world doing this or that or whatever your vision is, and I have more than enough time for my own personal needs and my own freedom and my own space, and I do it with my loved ones. So just keep playing with it, and notice how all of a sudden it jumps up the scale again. So just keep playing with that and ask what would make it even higher? What would make it a 90? And then finally 100. And every step of the way, you get to adjust the vision and add in or remove what releases the resistance. And again, it's usually, or like, I'm afraid, people will judge me. They won't accept what I have to offer. Great. So then include in your design of the vision that you are incredibly loved, valued, and accepted. So if you were totally loved, valued, and accepted and had all the freedom you needed and the time you needed and loved ones, now what could be possible? You see, and you just slowly but surely what you're doing is you're removing the weeds that have grown over time over where your seed has been planted. It's been choking the life of that vision that's been trying to emerge. And that's why you haven't been able to get clarity on it, because every time it tries to bump up, it bumps into the yeah, but, or how would that ever happen, or that's impossible, or what would they think of me? And so you get to step by step remove those weeds. And again, of course, I go through this much more in depth in the book. But you get to remove those weeds until you can feel like you can breathe again. You can feel like your seed of potential has oxygen again. And I think some of you, if you're watching right now, are feeling that. And so that's the beginning. So that's starting to get a sense and understand. Remember that feeling, a feeling of aliveness you may be feeling right now, that burning desire, those qualities that might be being activated as you imagine yourself living this vision. That's true. That's real. That is the substance and the essence of your soul. That is the seed of your soul speaking to you. Now, will it look exactly the way you're picturing it? Not necessarily, but it's okay. Because the essence of it, the energetic frequency of it, that is the truth of you. You can take that to the bank. That is real. And as that becomes embodied and integrated, and we'll talk in a moment about how to do that, you are now, remember, you're tuning yourself, tuning the dial of your consciousness to match that frequency where your destiny is playing. So now let's do another little piece. So this is called the soul profile. And understand, well, I will explain how it works first. I'll first just have you do it. So pick 3 to 5 people in the world, either alive or not alive anymore, from any area. It could be, anyone from Jesus to Mother Teresa to Gandhi to your neighbor down the street to an artist, or doesn't matter. Just somebody that you feel an incredible sense of either attraction to, a pull from, or admiration. You just think they're amazing, they're beautiful, they're wonderful, whatever it is. Oh my God, Oprah, she's so whatever, or oh my God, Mother Teresa, she's so amazing, or Martin Luther King, or pick 3 to 5 people that you just feel a really strong affinity towards. And again, it could be that you have a great admiration for their talents, gifts, abilities. It could be that you're really attracted to their message, to their story, to their life experience, or just the qualities of their character. And write those down if you can. And as you're looking over that list, begin to describe what are the qualities of their character that you most admire. What is the gifts or the talents? What is it about their life or their experience or their message or their story? Maybe they don't have a literal message, but just their life. They've come from rags to riches, or from abuse to being a leader in the world, or they're so humble, so loving, so kind, or they're a brilliant speaker, they're so articulate, they're so eloquent, whatever it may be. And begin to just describe some of those things. Again,
does it work if it's a fictional person too?
Totally. Great, I'm glad you added that in. Yes, absolutely. It works if it's a fictional. And I'll tell you in a moment why this is so. So begin to write that. So, you've got a little bit of a list now of some of the qualities, the characteristics, the attributes, the talents. Now, what I want you to understand is what you've just described here is not these other people. Now, it may in fact be true about them, but it also may not be true. What you've actually described is what I call your soul profile. Because how life works is that everything that pushes you or pulls you is a projection of your unintegrated potential. So just like if they strike a violin on stage and amplify it, that note that is struck begins to resonate in all the other violins in the orchestra. If they remove the string from those violins, they could strike that note all day long. It's not going to do anything to them. So because the note that's being struck in you is being struck because it's in you. When you look at these people, when you look at these experiences, it's in you, and they are a projection on the screen of your experience of parts of you that have been denied, that have not been activated, that have been repressed. And it's, if we had more time, I could walk you through step by step about where that happened and why, how. But you're getting clues all around you to who you are, remember? So this is an expression of who you are. And I remember years ago when I first began to understand this, and just one little fun example where I was watching a person, I was a singer, songwriter, and I was watching a person perform, and they were amazing, and they were singing and hitting these notes, and I found myself so admiring of them and yearning to be like them, and I caught it myself, and I realized, wait a sec, from the spiritual principle, whatever's true about anyone is true about everyone. There's really only one. And I'm experiencing a projection of my own potential. So I began to just re-own that projection. That's all I did. I just began to just reclaim it, to just re-own it, to just remind myself that I couldn't see it if it wasn't already within me. I couldn't resonate with it if it wasn't already in me. And I was not a great singer at the time. Maybe a month later, I was singing in public live, and I began to sing at that same level. That potential suddenly came out of me. I was hitting those notes effortlessly, and it was like, it was startling. In fact, some of you may know Michael Beckwith, and obviously at Beyond Words, you guys have done some stuff with him, and I was singing at his church, and he was like, because he knew me, and he was like, whoa, that's a new note. So he actually recognized that something had emerged, something really new and different and much more powerful. So this can be very powerful. So what I want you to do now is look at that list you've created and put your name there now and say, you know, I, Whitney, I, Susan, I, Bob, I, Julie, I am, and then begin to describe yourself using those things. You know, I am a loving, wise, brilliant, generous, eloquent speaker, teacher, healer, whatever, who is able to go for my life regardless of the challenges I've been through, and you know, whatever it is. And it might take you some, there's a little finessing. When I work with people live, I'm able to do that for them and with them very quickly. But you might have to finesse the words, but feel the resonance as you go through that. How somehow, even though part of your mind might be going, oh my God, that's crazy, how could I be that? That there's another part of it that's kind of going, yes, that's who I've always wanted to be. That's what I deep down want to be. That's remember desire. That is who you are. This is who you are. The seed of your soul potential is speaking to you through these projections. And so now take that together and go, if I was, I'll do one more little exercise too. Now think about the one or two areas in the world where it breaks your heart or it causes you the most anger or frustration, like an issue in the world, or you know, like children or children's slavery, or maybe it's a human issue like people that complain too much, or people that are victims, act like victims, or people that don't go for their dreams or make too many excuses. Just think of something that really gets you. If you hear it on talk radio, you just want to like yell at it, or you see it on the news and you kind of turn it off because it breaks your heart too much. Or you're talking to somebody and they do it and it just pushes your buttons. This is called the heartbreak bridge. And this begins to give you an indication. So just pick something now. That thing that's pushing your buttons. Like, what's yours, Whitney? What's something?
For me, it's kids writing, and the fact that now they have to pull teeth in order to get kids to be involved and be excited about writing. And I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Okay.
Come on.
Great. So, and what are some of the qualities that came up when you described some of the people you admired?
Really, one of the people that I chose, and you even said him, was Martin Luther King Jr. And the fact that no matter what, in the face of so much adversity, he was able to stay nonviolent, was able to affect so many people and inspire them to continue with that nonviolence as well and make this massive difference. And, you know, being willing to give it all.
Yes. And who else? What's one other one? Pick another one that you...
So I put on here, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so I put Hermione on here.
Right. And what about Hermione?
Because she's brilliant. She's always brilliant. She's brilliant and sensitive at the same time, and she can bring the knowledge that's necessary in the moment, and just love her friends so passionately and be that integral part of making something really awesome happen.
Great. Okay, so if we were to put all this together, of course we're working really fast here, we might say something like Whitney is a person who is brilliant and is a person who has a deep sense of brilliance and incredible love and loyalty for her friends, and has a deep conviction and a willingness to do whatever it takes in the face of any adversity while maintaining a sense of peace, to make changes in the world, to make a big impact in the world, to serve and help people, and in one particular way to really use all of this to help children, and to help children to start to really become inspired again about writing. So that might be one example of a quick little snapshot of just quickly pulling together those pieces. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And that's who you are. That's not who you're going to be. That's who you are. And I know there's more qualities there, but that passion, that feistiness, that fight, that conviction, that loyalty, that fierce passion and love and loyalty, that willingness and courage and strength and conviction to stand in the face of all obstacles and all judgments and opinions, but walk your talk and stand your ground and serve and make an impact in the world, helping children and helping them to, you know, that's you. So wherever you all are doing this, take those three pieces now, that what we talked about before, the 100% vision, the soul profile, and the heartbreak bridge, and put those together and just start playing with, if I really was this person and I could really make an impact in this way in the world, what is the best version of that vision? What is the version of that vision that just totally juices me? And like Whitney, you're doing it with your husband and maybe traveling, and maybe you're traveling to Africa and you're helping children in Africa to read and to write and to start to become more, I don't know. But you start to play with that and just know that none of this was something you pulled out of thin air. Understand, a vision is not something you make up. A vision is what you are made of. The same way that the acorn doesn't make up an oak tree, it doesn't really create an oak tree, it's made of the substance of the oak tree. And so a vision is what you're made of. Your sole purpose is your very nature, your very essence. So that's the first big piece there. And I know we spent a lot of time, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to give you a little bit more now about how to put this to action. So the second big piece is, now stage 2 of emergence is creating or cultivating the congruent conditions. So you have to become congruent with this vision now. And that has to do with, mentally, emotionally, physically, how you feel, who you're being, and what you do has to be a match. When it says in the Bible, where 2 or 3 or more are gathered in agreement, then there I am in the midst of them. That's a metaphysical or esoteric principle. It's saying when 2 or 3 dimensions of us, when our mental, emotional, physical come into agreement, come into alignment, come into congruence with our highest nature, then it manifests. It becomes manifest. So that's another way of saying it. So we need to bring all those parts of us into congruence. Does that make sense? So one of the ways you can do it, now you can use some of these tools you're familiar with, like visualization, and just take a moment to just really imagine you living this vision. You're there, you're with these children or whatever it is, you're traveling, you're with your beloved, you are, and see yourself showing up the way you really have envisioned and what you found in those qualities. You're being the person you just described there. You're making that kind of impact. See the look in those people's faces that you're touching. See the tears in their eyes. See the joy in their face. See the impact. Feel what it feels like to be that person that you've just described, making that impact, having those opportunities, being with the people you want to be with. And really let yourself feel it. And notice also who you're being. And now take a moment and just write down, what are a few of the qualities of feeling? What are the feeling tones? It could be joy, could be peace, could be confidence or expansiveness. Write those down. Again, you can always come back to this and do more, or just get the book and I'll walk you through it a lot more. And get the free training and I'll start walking you through a little bit of it right away while you're waiting for the book. And again, you can just go to emergencetraining.com to get that. But now notice also in the vision, as you visualize this and you feel this, who are you being? So now that you are, just Whitney, so now that if you imagine yourself doing this work, how are you showing up in the world? What are some of the qualities of your being? And a being quality is more active. So where a feeling quality is like peace, joy, love, a being quality is like generous, serving, playful, those kind of things. What are some of the qualities of being that you see yourself being more of in this vision?
Well, generous, definitely.
Right.
I get this feeling of being powerful and
Great.
not in the overbearing sense, but just powerful in lifting others up with me.
Yes.
And being that the inspiration for others to rise as well.
So powerful and generous.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm just getting a lot of intuitive hits about you, Whitney. If we were on the session, there's a lot. There's something for you. Owning your power is a really, really key part of your life theme. It's a big part. There's some underlying shadow beliefs in there, and everybody can kind of be aware of this for themselves. around an early experience of experiencing a more overpowering experience of power, a somewhat dominating experience of power that caused you to somewhat not fully own all your power and begin to be, and instead create the construct of being much nicer and finding your way in the world. But there's an element here for you to really own your power. And in the book, in stage 6, Embrace What Appears Broken, I go into how there's these parts within us that we've repressed. We can call them shadow beliefs, but we've had an experience, and they sound like dominating or greedy or selfish or mean or angry, and we've been taught to, try to get rid of those, or take that dominating self and make it more kind, or take that angry self and make her happier, or take that selfish part of us and make it more selfless. And in fact, that's one of the worst things that we've been taught to do, and it's created so much shame and guilt and internal conflict. And then those qualities get projected, and we end up with people in our lives or situations that we feel dominated by, controlled by, all of that. And we don't have access to the full spectrum of our power. So when you embrace the needy, greedy, selfish, dominating part of you, what happens is you actually activate the greater power within you, talents, gifts, abilities, in the same way that the soil, what is the soil made of? Everything that is rotted and decayed and died. And the darker and the smellier, the better, the more fertile. And so the soil of our consciousness, of our soul, that darkness within us, those things we've been taught to get rid of, is the richest, most fertile part of us when we embrace it, when we love it, when we integrate it again. So I'm not going to be able to go into all that today, but a little teaser. But it's one of the most profound, it's one of the most often requested processes and practices that I do, which I go into depth in the book, and I give you a little bit more of it in the video training as well, on how to begin to work with these parts of you to activate that latent power. Or, for a lot of us on a path of personal growth, we have become really generous, giving, selfless people in a lot of ways. And what we really need to do is embrace our selfish side, and it will radically transform your life. This has helped so many people as I've helped them to do this. But anyways, just a little teaser. So now that you've got a couple qualities of being, powerful, generous. So now, and you said some of the qualities of feeling. What were some of the feeling qualities, Whitney?
Fulfilled. And confident. What you said about my feel about power is so true. And just, I don't know, just kicking butt.
Yes. Yeah, that's, there's an inner, for lack of a better word, there's kicking butt. I mean, there's really a powerful kick butt leader in you. And for a lot of you, there's so much more in us than we've been able to activate. And the emergence process allows you to get in touch with those disenfranchised and disconnected parts of you and reconnect them and reintegrate them. So now we take this and we want to move it into the engineering part of it. So you've got some qualities, and we're just working with a couple of them right now. So what you want to look at now is, let's just take one of the qualities of feeling like fulfilled. And you want to think about, what are the people, places, things, or activities that you either used to do, or you do a little bit of, but you don't do a lot of, or you want to do, but aren't doing? What are the people, places, things, or activities that actually make you feel that quality? Or in your case, it's a sense of fulfillment. So it could be when you are, walking through nature, or when, what might it be for you, Whitney? What are the people that when you hang out with them, spend time with them, you feel a quality of fulfillment? And by the way, it doesn't have to be literally. It could be that just you're hanging out with them virtually, like you're listening to them on an audio, or watching them in a movie, or reading a book about them, or it could actually be someone you spend real time with. What's like a person or something that you feel a deeper sense of fulfillment when you're with?
My dad.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So your dad.
Yeah, he's awesome that way.
Awesome. Okay, so and then what's like a what's an activity that you want to do, or that, and maybe you don't think you've had time to do it, or the money to do it, or whatever, or you used to do but don't do it anymore, but something that brings fulfillment?
Hiking to waterfalls specifically.
So hiking to waterfalls, just hiking in general do it, or just hiking to waterfalls?
It's really the vista, the really beautiful big piece of nature that blows the mind as to how it was ever created.
Yes. Okay, so being in nature and incredible grand vistas and hiking and going to waterfalls, all of that. Okay. And do you do that often?
No, I haven't
No.
done that in years.
Okay, great. That's a perfect example. And then what about places? Now, of course, we're also, sometimes these will cross over. Is there any other place besides being in nature that you find this great sense of fulfillment?
Trying to think of something. In a library or a bookstore.
Okay, great, great. So a bookstore or a library. And then what about objects? Is there any kind of like, and it can be a smell, it can be a sound, it can be an image, it can be a little token or totem, or is there any objects that when you see this picture or see this thing, or that it brings a sense of fulfillment? And there may not always be an answer for every one of these.
The smell of baking bread is really fulfilling to me.
That's funny. That's one of the ones I use in the book, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of this kind of comfort, this kind of just, So great. So now, as an example, what you'd begin to do is write these down, and you would look at beginning to, in stage 3 of emergence, an emergenteering process, is creating the quantum plan. You would start to actually engineer into your life strategy, into your daily environment, into the way you go about things, these issues. You start to, where can I be spending more time with my dad? Whether it's on the phone every week, whether it's whatever it is, where can I start to plug in, being in nature more, or hiking more, or maybe I could start baking bread once a month, or a couple times a month, or something. And you start to engineer these in, and some of them might seem silly. Some of them you might find yourself bumping up against things again, like I don't have the time, et cetera, et cetera. And just know that that's why you're not experiencing the fulfillment of your life, because these excuses and these internal structures are showing up in your life as all the reasons and excuses why you can't, and you're not aligned. Remember, I said in the beginning, we've created these life structures and strategies more by default as a reaction to cope and to protect and to be comfortable and to not get hurt. And now we're taking back the reins, and we have to begin to design a life inside and out, and surround ourselves inside and out with the people, places, and things that represent our future, that represent our destiny, that represent where we want to be, not where we've been, or not even where we are necessarily. Now, another element of this is also beginning to look in your life and see what are the people, places, things, and activities that activate in you the opposite of fulfillment, and how can you begin to engineer those out. So if you're watching TV and media and things that just make you so angry and make you feel so depleted, well, that's not a frequency of fulfillment, is it? So you might have to engineer some of those out. Or there's, people you hang around with and they just suck you dry of your life force. That's probably not a person you should be spending time with. And I mean, there's much more depth to this in terms of when you do bump into these areas, what's the internal transformational opportunity, because all of this carries with it a lot of opportunity to grow and transform. But as you take the different qualities that your vision represents and you begin to engineer these people, places, things, and activities into your life, you will start to experience yourself feelings if you're living your destiny. And the second thing is the being. And that is, so let's just take one of the beings, one of the being qualities, such as powerful. And you ask yourself, what would it look like for me to step into being more powerful in my life right now? If I was to show up as a powerful person in my life right now, or in this relationship, or at this job, depending on where it really pulls you the most. What would that look like? And as you honestly ask that question, what's the intuitive hits you start to get? Like, where you really know you're being called to show up in more power? What would that look like? And I'm asking you, Whitney.
For me, immediately the thing that I think of is at work. I know that I've definitely there's more that I could do. There's a lot that I could bring if I powerfully brought it forth and was confident in that contribution, whatever that is. Then I could really make a difference.
Yes, beautiful, perfect example. And so you can do that with each one of those qualities of being. And what this starts to do is you start to show up for your life right now as if you are the person that you ultimately want to be. And a couple things will happen as you start to activate the feeling and the being, and that will include certain doings, and you start to show up. You are now becoming a match for your seed, that purpose, that potential, that vision. And one of two things is going to happen now. Your environment, your relationships, they will either change to match you, or you will be moved into environments and relationships that do. So if this job or this relationship or this home is your destiny, as a part of your destiny, it will shift and evolve to play with you. If it's not, you'll be moved. And we don't have any much time left, but I remember I was working at a job as a waiter. I had this big opening, and I didn't already tell this story, did I, Whitney? About the waiter?
No.
Okay, great. I'm in back-to-back interviews. Some of them are like, did I already say that? But I remember on this job, and I had been an up-and-coming actor. I was, quite successful, and then I had this spiritual opening, and everything fell apart. And I had to become a waiter. I mean, I did it in reverse. I went from being an actor to a waiter. It's the other way around. And I was humiliated, and I had people coming in that I had been in movies and TV with, and I had to wait on them. It was terrible. And I just hated my life, and I hated my job, but I had a bigger vision. And I was understanding these principles. So I began to articulate how would I feel and who would I be if I was living that vision. The vision of, teaching and sharing my gifts and all that, and being abundant. And I began to show up at that waiter's job and bring those qualities. I began to show up with excellence and with a whole new level of service and generosity and creativity and compassion and love. And I just began to really be and bring that to that job. And I remember the other waiters were suspicious. They were like, what are you up to? You're making us look bad, man, showing up and being so excellent. And I got fired. And then I didn't understand what was going on at the time. And so they realized it was a mistake, and they hired me back. And so now I'm like kind of feeling bad about myself and feeling kind of rejected and kind of judged. And I realized that was just another layer of my own issue. And so I had to deal with that. And I began to work with that and then show up again and dig in even more and bring even more excellence. And I began to help the other waiters, and I began to opt out of the gossip and the criticism, and I began to just bring show up early and leave a little bit late, just bring all of me to that job. This was my destiny. This was the job of my dreams. That was the mindset. And I got fired again. And I was like, what's going on here? And then it turned out I was like scapegoated by one of the managers, didn't like me, again, was like, what am I up to? And they hired me back. So this went on. I got fired a third time. It was more of a mutual parting at that point. And within a few weeks, I was hired in another job. And I went from making $50 a day to $1,000 a day. I went from serving people in a 3-star restaurant to being wined and dined in 5-star restaurants around the country. And I went from having the dream of speaking and teaching and sharing my gifts to actually being paid to do so. And the key is that didn't happen in my future. I cultivated the soil right where I was planted. Remember, a plant can't grow in the future. It can only grow where it's planted. So I was planted in that waiter's job. And that became my spiritual gymnasium. That's where I built the musculature, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, qualitatively in terms of my character, to be able to hold that energy, to be able to hold the frequency that was a match. And that environment wasn't able to match that. It wasn't my destiny. So I was automatically spun out of that. And so this process we're talking about that we've just kind of briefly gone through, I applied this also when I wanted my first house and we couldn't even begin to afford it. And going from not being able to afford it to in 90 days or less moving into our dream home. I've applied this to grow my business into a 7-figure global business when I didn't have a clue how to do that. So this is powerful stuff. And again, you can apply it to every area. So I invite all of you to really do this. It's important that you actually do something with this information, that you don't just go out, I'm inspired, and then do nothing, go watch TV or something. That you actually take this material that we've been working on and keep refining that vision and break down those qualities of feeling and being. And also the qualities of doing, which we didn't really talk about too much, but like with the house example, we were living in a little condo and had a child and wanted a house and a yard and couldn't afford it, didn't even have the first clue how. And we began to do the same work. We began to treat that little apartment as if it was our dream home. We began to talk about it and take care of it and really fill it out to the max as if this was our dream home. But we also began to go look for dream homes. Whereas our friends were like, you're crazy. You can't afford that. And I was like, why am I talking to these realtors? I can't afford that, But I began to live into the vision. I began to move in the direction of the dream while I was doing the inner work so that my actions were also congruent. Because you must make your actions congruent. I've done this to travel the world when I couldn't afford to do it. I began to research and plan the trip, but also at the same time doing this inner work so that mentally, emotionally, energetically, I was a vibrational match. But again, I wasn't doing any of this to attract anything, because if I was doing it to attract it, I would be saying in essence it's not happening. I was doing it because the desire was kicking. I was doing it because I was pregnant with the vision. And I was like a pregnant woman who's not crazy. I was feeding the vision and doing the exercises, and I was preparing the environment. I was doing all these things to give birth to it. It's a very important distinction. And so this can be used in any area of your life. So again, I encourage you to go to www.emergencetraining.com and dive in and begin to use the worksheets and really do this work. And then of course grab the copy of the book, the signed copy. And I look forward to connecting with you all more in the near future and helping you really make this truly the best year of your life.
Derek, thank you so much for being on the show with us. This was just absolutely amazing. I just learned so much about myself and about what's possible, really, and just getting to use all of this and I know, I'm one of the lucky ones. I have a copy of your book in my hands right now. And as Derek mentioned, you guys can get your copy too. Just go to beyondword.com/Rydall, Rydall, and you can grab that signed copy today. And I just want to let everybody who's watching know that not next week, but the week after that, we're going to have Jay Ivey on the show. I'm so thrilled that he's going to be on the show. I feel like, Derek, you and him would have the most incredible conversation because he is similar to you, that he found the thing that he was passionate about, which is writing poetry specifically, and that has manifested an incredible life for him. He's won a Grammy, he's won a Peabody, he's recorded with Kanye West, he knows John Legend and Common and all of these incredible people. Nice. Through following his passion of writing.
Yes.
And he healed himself from a really strong loss of his father when he was a kid through writing a poem called Dear Father, which is what his book is based on. So it's going to be a phenomenal interview, and I really look forward to it. And we'll have to get the two of you guys together sometime here soon.
For sure. and it's an important point, which we didn't get to today, which is that many of our deepest pains and our greatest challenges and struggles, all of that is actually a clue to our deepest purpose. As I like to say, your greatest message comes from your biggest messes. And so, when I work with people more in depth, we help you to understand that all your life you've actually been preparing. and for your everything is conspiring for you to live your greatest purpose and give your deepest gift. And sometimes those painful moments and experiences are actually the very things that are cultivating something in us to be able to give that forth. So that's very powerful.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Derek, and thank you to everyone who's watching, and we'll see you guys again soon.
Thank you all. Take care.